Hello, welcome to the tour of pleasure here in the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. I'm sitting here with the Emperor of the Enchanted Kingdom. He is really the supreme being. The Empress is really his sort of connection between divinity and earth. She is the one who helps interpret his teachings. And we're here, we're listening to Kiss, the Emperor and I. Here for number 2 in our deep dive into the oeuvre of Kiss. And we're still, it's early days. Number 2. If you remember, in my last video, the Kiss debut came out, and I went through that. I went through all the early demos, which are helpfully available on the box set they put out way back in 2001. And some of this stuff is okay. I gotta say, now I came to this with my firm belief that Kiss are the worst rock band in the history of music. And I'm still of that belief, but I'm finding it's sort of like panning for gold up near Leechtown. You are eventually going to get some flecks of gold. And I already found a few. The earliest Paul Stanley demo was quite a treat, and might well be the best thing the man has ever done. But they went from Wicked Lester into Kiss. They put out the first Kiss album. Neil Bogart got Casablanca up and rolling with a big loan from Mo Austin from Wea. And with the promotion machine behind them, they put out the first Kiss record, and nothing happened. I mean, they for all the hype, and Casablanca spent a lot of money on hyping this band. They only sold, I think it was 75,000 units or something. And the first record is pretty skimpy just as a record. It was only 9 songs. It was like half an hour. In desperation, they made them do a cover of a Bobby Rydell song, which they put out as a single, which didn't do anything either. Although it sort of made the record kind of perk up a little bit. Really, it didn't do much. And then came the fateful day when one of the Casablanca guys listened in on the phone call at the promo people at Warner's, where one of the promo people, the head of the promo people, was telling everybody out there in the streets to emphasize Warner Brothers and Reprise releases. Don't emphasize the distributed labels so much. And so labels like Chrysalis, Capricorn, Discreet, and this was significant for Discreet, Frank Zappa's label, and Casablanca were all sort of on the back burner. And so this pissed off everybody at Casablanca. They went to Mo Austin and said, "What's with this bullshit? We want out of our contract." And Mo said, "Fine, off you go." So he released them. He let them go. They owed him $750,000, which apparently they paid him back. Neil did. But what this meant was, now here was Kiss with a debut album out that didn't exactly light the world on fire. And now they're on a label that is an independent now. And so this did not help. And in Canada, which is where I live, Kiss suddenly went from being on Wea, which was probably the biggest record distributor in the country, to the venerable Quality Records of Canada, who were the grab bag for everything that nobody else got. So they had Motown, later they had Jive, they had all kinds of, just the little labels that sort of were the, as Stan Cornum would call them, the dabs of gravy on the sides of the plate. And so they needed to get a second album out, Kiss did. And the result was, they retained the original production team of, was it Richie Wise, and what was the other guy's name? And I'm going to just keep, Kenny Kerner, yeah, these guys. Ooh. Now, these guys were not good producers. I'm going to be charitable here and say that listening to these 2 records recently, in sort of, studying them, if you will, it's not as bad as I remember. Now, part of that probably was the Quality Records pressings, which were really not good. They were, they were, they were approaching Jamaican quality pressings, and so these records were mid-rangey, shrill-sounding pieces of crap. So the sound of the records isn't. It's, if anything, it's a bit inferior to the first record. Rich Wise and what's his name, Kerner, they had moved to L.A. and so the band had to go to L.A. to record. And of course, these guys are from New York. They didn't like L.A. Maybe there was too much cocaine, because Shame, Vitz, aka Gene Simmons, and Stanley Eisen, aka Paul Stanley, were notoriously straight edge. They were all business, these guys. And by this point in the band, they were still the Four Ps, they were still the Four Musketeers, and they had sort of fallen into the pattern where, if you'll forgive me for this, if you compare them to the Beatles, Paul was Paul, Gene was John, the mind reels, Ace was George, and Peter was Ringo. And so you had the kind of pattern forming here where you'd have a Paul song, a Gene song, clumps of, and so this record is kind of done that way. Opens with a song called Got to Choose, about, my neighbors tell me you're planning to leave me, you gotta choose, baby, between, so this sort of warning song to an evil woman. It's a typical Paul Stanley song. It's got an okay riff. I mean, Paul Stanley ultimately is just lame. His musically, the songs are lame. This one's a little less lame than some. As an album opener, it's like, really? Then you get Ace Frehley. But now Ace wasn't singing yet. Still didn't want to sing. So he gets Gene to sing this. Now, I will point out once again that the vocals on these records are heavily delayed. And the main reason for this is because none of these guys can fucking sing. They're the worst singers in rock. All they do is kind of growl. They can inflect. They cannot sing. They're bloody awful. Parasite, I called up some of these lyrics. I gotta look at it. You got to choose. Baby, I heard the neighbors say you might be leaving me today. Someone's come along and shared your time. Yeah, I don't care. No, I don't know. But you can't be his and still be mine. So you gotta choose who's your baby. Well, you tell him, Paul. Parasite's a little different. Ace was a troubled soul, man. She'll always be there trying to grab a hold. She thought she knew me, but she didn't know that I was sad and wanted her to go. Oh. Parasite lady, parasite eyes, no need to cry. What are you talking about? I don't know. What's this one? Jesus. Like, their lyrics. Going Blind. Going Blind was a leftover from the Wicked Lester stuff. And it's apparently about a impossible relationship between a 14-year-old and a 92-year-old, and maybe it's about a mermaid, but we don't really know. Gene Simmons helped write it. Gene's lyrics are never concise. They're very Then you have Hotter Than Hell. Hotter Than Hell it's like an AC/DC song. Sounds to me just like AC/DC. It's a Paul Stanley song, so it's a polite, sexist, she looks good all dressed up, blah, blah, blah. She's hotter than hell. Your typical sexist, sort of whatever. Gently misogynist, perhaps. And then you got, and this one surprised me, 2 minutes and 14 seconds, tellingly, of Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, which is, goddamn, it's a rock and roll song. And it's not actually half bad. Now, it doesn't mean anything. The lyrics don't mean anything. I think they're just like, this has all the lyrical clout of Rock and Roll Part 2 from Gary Glitter. But it's them kind of playing, and Ace does a great little Chuck Berry thing, and it was like a little breath of fresh air. Of course, it's like, it can't be longer than 2 minutes. So there you go. Ends the side with a bit of a bang. Great. Now we enter, well, let's just call it the art rock side. This is where things get kind of dark. People say this was a darker record. And, yeah, well, sure. We start with two in a row, Gene Simmons. Let's call them compositions, shall we? All the Way is kind of a whatever. The lyrics, though, Gene's sexuality is different than Paul's. Paul is kind of like, I don't know, you just keep talking louder, complain to your mother and father. One of these days, you'll push me all the way. Push me all the way? What's he gonna kill her? I don't know about that one. Complain to your mother and father. Shame. That's just such a that's such a sort of a Jewish thing. Mother and father is a big deal. Baby, baby, you're not hard to sell. Tell you what you want to hear for a day. Yeah, there's a evil undercurrent to all of his songs. So if you think you need advice, just come to me. Don't compromise. Baby, baby, you're hypnotized every day. What do you mean, Gene? Yeah, one of these days you'll push me all the way. It'll all be over for you, woman. Yeah, I don't want him. I don't want her dating Gene. Then you've got Watching You. Now, Watching You, musically, is actually okay. It's the closest they come to some kind of, I don't know. How do you describe it? Music? Music. Okay. But Watching You is also Gene Simmons. What does he mean? Ooh, living as you do and I'm watching you. Oh, and you don't really know just what to do. Ooh, and I'm standing here not quite aware, and I'm trying, baby, trying not to stare. Not quite aware. Ooh, because everybody else is here. Yes, everybody else is here. Everybody else is here watching you. This is kind of like, what's that Sting song? Every move you make, I don't know. Except this is just, I don't know. Gene is a creepy guy. So, yeah. That's sort of the doom, the doom section of the album, if you will. Then you get Mainline. Now, Mainline, 3 minutes and 50 seconds of absolute pure filler. And it's just it's a lame Mainline. Just a lame rock song. It's got an okay solo in the middle by what's his name? Ace, which is good because that stretches it out. And then at the end, they're still not long enough, so they just tag on a little thing that kind of sounds like The Who for a minute. But it's just it's almost like, guys, we need 4 minutes to fill out the album. Okay. So there you go. That's where you put that song. Pete Chris sings it, which also tells you something about the pecking order of the song. Then there's a really short little song called Coming Home, which is, again, it's just a filler stopgap song. Co-written by Freely Stanley. I can pretty much guess that the only thing Freely really does in this is there's a great little descending thing that's the closest thing to a melodic lick, because strangely, sometimes you hear the Allman Brothers in these guys. Just here and there. And this is one of these moments. Now, of course, it's easily the best moment musically in this 2 minute and 37 second song, which is kind of short. So, of course, they just repeat it endlessly. So these guys were just, they were not subtle at all. But the thing that saves this record, if you will, the thing that keeps my copy of this in my collection, which I've only kept it because of the cover, but is Watching You musically, and then Strange Ways, the Big Ace Frehley thing, which is, again, I don't know, he was already kind of in bad way. It's a strange way you look at me, and it's a hard time that you've been giving me. Come on and open up to me so you can realize that I can set you free. This sounds like Charlie Manson wrote it. I mean, ooh. Now, here is where I get my comeuppance. All you friends of mine who know how much I fucking hate this band, and they keep going, well, but Chris or Ace was pretty cool. Nah, Ace is mostly garbage. However, the solo in Strange Ways which proves to me that with Ace Frehley, the more goop you put on his solo, the cooler it sounds. In this case, he's got one of these great, I think it's a Mutron phase shifter that kind of goes, it squirts this sort of guitar sound everywhere. And he does this just garbage solo, which just ends really abruptly and everything. It's great. But it's just like, I don't know, it's like the guitar solo in I'm Only Sleeping by the Beatles, which just kind of comes out of nowhere and plays this hose guitar. And it's where I finally go, okay. On occasion, Ace gets in there with some pretty good squonk. And that's the end of the record. It's 10 songs. It was the most expedient record in the bloody universe. I don't know if you can see it. There's the cover. The cover was, I always thought the cover was cool. The first album made me laugh, and I was 15. This one came out, and I went, okay. Then I heard it, and I didn't like it. Not then. I was still not into this. This is what, 74 still. And so they put out 2 records. This one did even worse than the first one. They've all gone gold now, of course. But back when they were getting going, they were still pretty much nobodies. And this record didn't do anything really. Did they do a single off of this? I forgot to look that up. The first album, the first album was whatever it was, the one about Gene having anal sex with his girlfriend. That was their first single. And then I don't know which one here was the single, but I guess if you were already besotted with these guys, it was an okay record. Sonically, it's crap. Stylistically, it's kind of all over the place. Like, they never really had their own style. They would just appropriate this or that or the next thing. And they've gotten to the point where they can kind of do it here, but they're just not very good. And that is the overriding impression I get out of this record, is it was just push it, promote it, and get the visuals, and the cover is great. Now all they needed was everything but talent, as I call it. So as this record came out, and they were touring like crazy, and they were playing with God, everybody, and they were going from strength to strength, the plan went in, okay, what are we going to do for the third album? And by this point, Casablanca had sort of settled in as an independent. So, but of course, Casablanca, they knew how to spend money, boy. And so we'll see in the third installment of this what happens when a slight change in direction happens. But that's for another day. Thanks for watching. I'm having fun doing this because, like I say, I can just listen to these for free on the internet. I don't even have to get the records out. And I haven't listened to them in a long time, so it's worth going over them one more time just to kibitz with my friend. Many of my friends like Kiss. Several of my friends play in Kiss tribute bands. So I'm like, there's got to be something there. I got to try it. And I get teased by them, and I tease them about various Kiss-related things. So it's kind of fun to do. They are as corporate rock as McDonald's. A franchise if ever there was one. But they exist, and they will prevail long after I'm gone. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll get more of this ridiculous nonsense as and when. Look after each other. Times is tough. Stay strong. And screw Nazis. Take it easy.